Hi, welcome back to I Studio. Tonight we're going to work on a black and white project. It's a project that is great for helping you with composition because you're not seduced by the luscious textures of the oil or acrylic paint that you're probably used to using. For this project, we're simply going to use paper and black media, which can be drawing or painting. Tonight I have some ivory black acrylic, and I brought a variety of drawing materials. I've got Stabilo pencil, which is a aquarellable pencil. It is activated with water. I have some various compressed charcoal for a dark color. And I have a really fun drawing tool called an art graph. And this is also something you can use with water to make a very dark mark. So we have a variety of simple media here. And what we're going to work on is this is a 9-grid collage. And what we do is we make drawings with different prompts, and then we are going to cut the collages apart and reconfigure them into a 9-square grid. I did this with my class the other day, and they did such a great job that I am going to include their finished products in this video. So they'll be flashing across the screen and you can see what they've done. So let's do a couple of marks, see what we get, and then we're going to cut them apart. Okay, the object of this assignment is to make different kinds of marks. We're going to cut each page into 4-inch squares, and we're going to recombine the squares to make a 9-gridded composition. It sounds easy, it's very difficult to try to bring those compositions together in an interesting way. And the best thing to do is have a variety of marks to work with. So the first mark that I want to make is a thick line. And I'm using something that's called art graph. I ordered this online. It can be in black or a variety of colors. You can draw with the entire surface of this, and it's water soluble. They call it aquarellable, which means it can smear with water and get very interesting. So I'm actually going to dip my art graph in the water and see what kind of thick, dark lines I can get. That's pretty interesting. I'm using the side of it, then I switch to just the corner. Got a little thin line there. This is the assignment for the thick lines, so I want the majority of my lines on this page to be thick. I want you also to pay attention to the negative space. You don't want to fill up every square inch of space on this assignment. As you reconstruct the grid into a meaningful composition, you are going to want some negative space. I like that. Okay, so that's our thick line. That's page number 1. Number 2, I want you to make a pattern on the entire page. For this one, I'm going to use a compressed charcoal. Compressed charcoal would tend to give you a dark mark again. The pattern can be anything, and you can switch up the pattern. I'm going to make hash marks. So just because we're doing pattern doesn't mean we can't vary the pattern a little. I was using, one edge of the charcoal. Now I'm going to use a thinner edge and press a little lighter. So even within my patterns, I'm getting some variation. It's fun to watch how different students will interpret assignments differently. Many will be very, very precise with what they do. Others just can't get it down fast enough. I fall in that camp a little bit myself. Now that I have quite a few hash marks, I'm going to take the side of my hand and I'm going to smear a little bit just to get some variation in those marks when I go to reconstruct them. Now I'm going to do a little different pattern because you don't have to do the same pattern on the whole page. I'm going to do this kind of a 6 looking pattern. Many of the students that completed this assignment went on to do another one on their own because they did find it so satisfying to just deal with the marks alone. So for the third mark, we're simply going to do scribbles. And for my scribbles, I'm going to use the Stabilo pencil. And this is another aquarellable media that is water soluble. And the water tends to make the marks darker. So I'm going to start out. You can either wet the media after you've put it down and it will smear beautifully, or you can dip the pencil in the water before you start to get a darker mark out of it. But this is about scribbles. So let's just get a little free with what we're doing. I like to put my body into it, to stretch, to move, to feel my shoulders moving. Hold the pencil in a variety of ways to get a different mark. I usually tell my students, hold the pencil any way you want, except the way you would hold a pencil to write. Because if you hold the pencil the way you do when you're writing, it engages the left side of your brain, which is the analytical side of your brain. And what you want when you're making art is to engage the right side. There we go. That's my scribble page. That's page number 3. For the fourth mark, I want to do a sweeping mark. And in order to do that, I'm going to use a little bit of acrylic paint. I just have a little bit of a ivory black. And I'm going to use a mop brush that one of my students gave me years ago. And she actually made this brush from a mop. She took the head of a mop and she cut some of the strings. She took a little baling wire and just wired it to a stick. And you can get some wonderful marks with handmade tools like this. So I just have a little acrylic in a palette. I'm gonna brush through it with my mop brush. And I want to sweep. See what kind of marks I can get by sweeping alone. What if I mop? What if I put some water in there? Wow, that's a different mark than the sweep. That's a mop. The other was a sweep. Interesting. I think that looks wonderful. I love the nature of that mark. Sweep, 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 sweep. There we go. And that is our 1, 2, 3, 4th page. I want to wet the paper entirely and get a wet on wet mark. This can be done with both pencil, charcoal, art graph, and or paint. You could actually, what might be fun is to just take the tube of paint and see what kind of a mark we could get by drawing directly from the tube onto the water. That's pretty interesting. Yeah. You know, I've kind of broken my rules with the paint because it is getting a little textural here. So I'm actually going to take my hand and flatten it because I don't want to be seduced by the texture. So there's some beautiful, beautiful marks on this one. And it's going to give me a variety of dark mark to put into my collage, because ultimately that's what we're doing. We're collaging 3, 4, 5. And for our 6th assignment, I think we need something lighter to get a lighter mark. I'm going to use a 2B piece of graphite. This will give me a light line. And I want you to do a contour drawing. And what I want you to do is focus on an object on your table, and without lifting the pencil from the paper and without looking at the paper, I want you to draw your object. I'm looking at a plastic box. Now, for me, my contour drawings never particularly look like the object that I'm looking at, but some of my students can actually make beautiful renditions of what they're seeing. So there's mine, 2 boxes and a piece of tissue paper. Looks nothing like that, but it is an interesting drawing, and that's the whole name of the game. You'll notice the drawing had some pre-existing fingerprints on it. That's fine. That will all work into the interest of the composition when we get to the point of putting that composition together. Okay, so our 6 pages of all the drawings we did have all dried, and now it's time to cut them into the 4-inch pieces. There's a lot of ways that this can be done, and one of the ways is to take a piece of paper and cut a 4-inch hole in the center. This becomes a viewfinder, so you can use this to move it around your page to try to find the most interesting composition. It might not be completely necessary, being that we're not really sure what our composition is going to look like until we get all 9 squares together. But you can see that you can find some very, very interesting compositions in this way. I love this one. At this point, you can take an X-Acto knife, and what I'm going to do is put a piece of cardboard to protect my table. Let's see if I got anything near a square out of that. I don't even know if I cut it all the way through. Yeah, it's pretty good. Pretty good. Let's see. And that's one very tedious way that you can get a square. Now, the way that I've been doing it, I love the marks on that. The way that I've been doing it, that's much easier for me, is to get a cutter, paper cutter. And I still have to measure my 4 inches. Get your mark on the center and make sure your edge is lined up straight. That's so much easier for me. And then I'll mark another 4 inches and cut it the other way, and that's the best way for me to get a square. Now there's another way to get a square, and that is just a pair of scissors. So all you have to do is just mark your 4 inches and use a straight edge. All right, let's see. So Now I've got an entire stack of these 4x4-inch squares. You can see I have a lot, and what I'm going to need is 9 to create some kind of an interesting composition. This is where it gets very time-consuming. The last one I put together, I spent 2 hours. For me, it's not a random process. And the assignment that I gave to the students was to make a very good composition. Now that looks almost like it belongs together, but you can see it doesn't, because this mark here cuts off and that continues. I like it when that sort of chance occurrence happens. There's a couple of ways that I think about composition. Sometimes you work from the center out. Sometimes I work around the center. I was reading an Art in America article many years ago by Joan Mitchell, and she had a huge 4-panel painting, and she talked about why she liked to work in panels. And she said she liked it when they came together seamlessly, like this little section does here. And then she said she liked it when they did not come together seamlessly, and there was a big difference in the way that the pieces came together. She loved that, and I tend to really agree with her. That's pretty interesting, I think, as a composition. Let me just exchange this one with this one. Let's see if I like that better. Yeah, that's pretty interesting. So I've got my composition. The next step is to attach this to a surface. This could be attached to a piece of paper, a piece of cardboard, or to simply tape the composition together in the back. That's up to you. What I chose to do here is I just put it on an old canvas with a polymer medium, a matte medium. You can use Yes Paste. There are a lot of different glues to use. You can use a brayer or a scraper to get it down firm. Let's find a substrate and get this attached.